Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Aloha, and welcome back, my friends. Today we're talking about opening to the path of love. What a perfect time to be talking about this. We are in the beginning of February 2021, and I'm currently preparing to open the doors again for the 3-month Women Wisdom Mentorship. And every time it comes this time to open the doors, I am reminded, and life reminds me of this path, of this courageous, strenuous, loving, incredibly life-changing path of love. And aside from that, we are all still writing the effects and the aftermath of 2020, which has been massively transforming the way that we see our hearts and the potential of the heart field. There's something really interesting happening right now on a global scale, but really in my personal life, and I see it in so many beautiful souls around me, is that we are being given divine opportunities of transformation, of deep, deep transformation of the heart. And the heart is such a powerful and profound source of wisdom. It's, in my eyes, the true source of wisdom, and it's infinite. It's really the portal to another universe, and that universe is really a reflection of us, all that we hold, and we're in it. We are in a time where we are being given the opportunity and the potential to really choose the path of love. So what does that even mean? What does that look like? I'm going to be talking about this, and also about how do we start walking this path? How do we know we're walking it? So essentially, it's about coming back to our essence. The path of love is one of true healing. It's of true remembering. Healing is getting a bad rep overall in the collective consciousness, but really healing is just simply remembering. It's coming back to our true essence. Many would call this the path of the rose, to really walk this path of taking full responsibility of going deep into your own programming, into your own ancestry, and taking full responsibility for the wiring and the connections and the programs that are in our heart and in our brain. And it's the path of true magic in my eyes. I've noticed that every time I choose love, there are new profound opportunities and possibilities that arise, but only if I choose love. If I choose to hold on to that old thing, that old pattern that perhaps can feel comfortable, then that magic just silently waits in the background. So that's walking the path of love. It's really what we all most want, whether we know it or not. We're all just genuinely wanting to walk this path. It's just that we don't realize it because it's such a distorted reality that we live in, and there's so many veils and there's so many obstructions that come in between us and the true path of love. But really, there's no other way to talk about spiritual awakening and ascension without talking about the true path of love. At some point on this path, you will genuinely, desperately seek the true frequency of love. You'll realize that that's what we're here to learn. And that's what these teachers and mystics and masters continuously try to teach us time and time again. The true lesson is love. And it is so hard for us in these human bodies to be receptive to that profound teaching. I was recently listening to a woman speak, and this concept has come to me several times in the past, that in our own language, the word love has been so distorted and so misused that it can no longer hold the true frequency of what love is. I mean, imagine that. We use the word love, and it's not even in relation to what this true word is supposed to represent. It's quite incredible to think that in our language, it is not possible to hold the frequency of true love. We don't have the words for it. And that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm realizing with so many of my experiences, is that you cannot put these experiences into words because we are so limited by our words. And so the more that we crack our hearts open to this reality, to this path of love, your field, your energetic field will start to transform. Absolutely, no doubt about it. It will bring on massive healing. It will restructure the way that you think about yourself and think about the people around you. And with that comes a massive surrendering. It's natural. Nobody asks it of you. It's not forced upon you. It is actually birthed within you. It's so beautiful. I've felt this time and time again, coming down to my knees and just really humbly surrendering to this higher frequency. And that's genuinely the only way to experience it. In my eyes, you will simply want to bow down in honorable reverence to this path. That's how overwhelming it can be. It just takes over your body, and the frequency of love devours your every cell. And it is, there's very little words for it. And ultimately, when you can experience that time and time again, the more you realize that humanity is just a bunch of children running around, hurt, blinded, and pointing fingers at each other, playing out old narratives, playing out old subconscious patterns. And it's humbling to see that in oneself, and then to be able to see that in another, because all of a sudden, your heart simply opens and you begin to really understand that you have a choice. You have a choice every moment. And that choice is, do I want to walk this path of love and understand that I am hurt and I am simply just a child that's playing on old programs and patterns? Or do I want to step into something new, step into new possibility, to the magic that unfolds when I can surrender to this higher frequency of love? How do you really want to move forward? And that's truly the question that comes up when I think about this path of love. It requires so much courage. It requires so much strength. It is really not easy. It's really not easy. And I think that that's why not too many people walk it, because it's hard. It really is hard. It's so much easier to step into our old programs and our old patterns, but to really decide to step that aside and choose the path of love, choose to activate the true frequency of love. There's massive cleansing happening at this time. And the more that you can choose this path, the more synchronicities you will live in your life. It is really magical. You'll start to see it in your dreams. Your dream time will change. You'll begin to receive information and signals in dream time, and also in real time, in this time, quote unquote real time, right? You'll start to see synchronicities in your relationships, in your life, and you'll start to notice that there's a lot less efforting that has to happen. because somehow you're just being held by this frequency. And this is what happens when we really open up to the mystical intelligence of love. This intelligence that is so divine that we have actually forgotten since the time that divine feminine has been stripped away from humanity. It's just been gone. It's been let go of. And so it's an opportunity to really allow the magic to work through us. Every single time that we choose to open up to this path, to see it eye to eye, to really ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness for our thoughts, forgiveness for our actions, forgiveness for our deeds, forgiveness for playing out these old subconscious programs. The true frequency of love will genuinely open up to you. It's quantum. It's a quantum transmutation that happens on the inner plane. It happens within yourselves, and all of a sudden, your reality will completely shift. And so the greatest thing that is holding us back from living and experiencing this path of love is quite literally the hardest thing that is for humanity, that is being inside a human body, which is our emotions. And our emotions are tied to our belief systems and our patterns. You know, the emotions of grief and anger and sadness and frustration and shame and blame and guilt. There's an array of emotions that, on the contrary to what we may believe, we hold on to them as self-sabotage, because it's so much easier to self-sabotage than it is to step into this new divine frequency, to step into something unknown to us. And these emotions are so powerful. They're so magnetic in their force. They will hold you back from truly seeing the light of love. That's how powerful our emotions are. But when we can realize this and ride our emotions in conscious awareness, we begin to peel back the layers. We begin to open ourselves up. We begin to release the emotions that are in self-sabotage, and this allows us to begin to remember, which is part of the first tip on how to begin walking this path of love. So let's go straight to it. The first step to walk this path of love is to remember. Stillness is like this beautiful friend that is waiting for us to sit by her side. I have found that spending time in solitude, more specifically in nature, because the frequency of nature is so high, she will hold you, she will embrace you, and she will guide you. Something happens on the quantum level that memories begin to ignite, and this is what remembering is. Your DNA starts to light up in solitude. If you can genuinely create a space for yourself that just allows you to be alone with yourself. And that sounds very simple. But when you're alone with yourself is when you can actually be open to the universe that exists inside of you. I genuinely believe that walking the true path of love cannot open up to you unless you're willing to sit in stillness and sit in quietude. It's very hard to experience this true frequency without creating that space. It's hard to find this true frequency in the midst of distractions and bombardment of technology and entertainment and so many other things that we distract ourselves with. So if you're really interested, right, just like if you would be interested in getting hired for a job, right, you'd really commit, you'd show up for that interview, you'd prepare, you'd work every day if you got hired. Well, that's what it is in this path of love. You show up, but really you're showing up to yourself, to your heart frequency. The next tip is one that you may not expect. It has to do with proper nutrition. And I learned this through so many years. I've been a holistic nutritionist, and I've been on this path of understanding the truth behind nutrition, which is such a debated field, probably one of the most debated fields in the world. And the reason why is because we are all unique. Our DNA is unique. Our souls are unique. And so nutrition, the merging of nutrients from the reality we live in, from the world we live in, merging those nutrients to our bodies, our unique bodies and genetic makeups. No one can tell you how to eat correctly. And this is why I talk so much in my programs about intuitive eating and activating that. A huge platform that has helped me understand the nutrition that's right for me is human design. They have a specific path in human design called PHS, and it's changed my life completely. It threw away all of the concepts and beliefs that I had as a holistic nutritionist and all of the things that I learned for so many years. And that's when I realized this is the truth behind nutrition. And I actually gave up being a holistic nutritionist because I realized, oh, we're all made up differently. A green smoothie to me is different than a green smoothie to you. But why am I talking about this? Because the nutrients that we absorb in our body, how we absorb them makes all the difference. So when we cannot absorb the nutrients correctly, our body bugs out. Our brain is not receiving the correct nutrients. Our cells are not receiving the correct nutrients, and we can't possibly activate. It throws our energy fields off, the electrical conduits, right? The electrical systems in our bodies can't light up. They can't communicate. And so here we are all trying to eat like the person in front of us telling us what's the right way to eat, trying to walk this different path, a higher frequency path, and yet our bodies can't activate because we're not nourishing them properly. We're not nourishing them according to what is right for us. So get curious about how you're eating. If you haven't looked into human design or another system perhaps that exists that is similar to human design, I don't know of any. The next tip on knowing and starting to walk this path of true love is to genuinely believe. And this has been my biggest hurdle, to genuinely believe that this path is real, to believe that it's worth it, and to believe that something else exists. It's hard to believe these days, but when that belief comes back within you, it just simply cannot be taken away. I did an Akashic record reading, and I found out that this belief was the believe, right? Like believing something more is possible was stripped away from me at around age 9. And I will never forget how I reacted at that time. My entire body broke down, complete, just sobbing in tears, because I realized it's true. That's why I had been holding myself back for so many years, because I didn't allow myself to believe. And it took so many years to unwire that promise to myself, that I promised myself I would never allow myself to believe in something magical or something more than what I could physically see others around me live. And so I can genuinely tell you that once that happens, the multidimensional essence of this universe opens up within you. And with it comes the path of love, undoubtedly. And the last tip is to actually just simply ask. Ask to be shown. And I feel like now that I'm looking back at these tips, I'm like, wow, they are pretty simple. But the simple things are the hardest, right? You can ask to be shown. I promise you it works. It is so much more powerful than what you may believe. Ask to be shown the path of love. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's not an easy path. It takes courage. It takes strength. It is highly underrated what it takes to walk this path. But if you ask to be shown, you will open the doors, the golden gates to such immense amount of healing and remembering and believing. You're going to get your socks blown away. So ask. Genuinely ask to be shown. And so the next episode, I'm going to be talking about what walking this path of love looks like, what happens when you choose it, and what are some tools to have while you're on this path of love. So until then, I leave you with the following. Engulf yourself in love, and you will never be the same again. Blessings.